Welcome, everyone. I'm Sandra Bargman. A few years ago, I wrote and performed a solo show called The Edge of Every Day, which was an exploration of the rough edges and contradictions we all face and grapple with. The show hit a nerve, and the relevance of the topic would only grow over time, more than I could have foreseen. So, here we are. Real talk with real people, sharing stories and perspectives that spark provocative invitations to leap out of what's safe, on the edge of every day. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on the edge of every day here on talkradio.nyc. Tonight, we are live in the hive with author and witch Amanda Yates Garcia for our 48th episode entitled The Edge of the Underworld. For those of you who have become loyal listeners, thank you. Thank you so much for spending your time with me and my guests. Our numbers keep growing, and I have you to thank. I couldn't do it without you. Please continue to share this podcast with friends and family, and take a moment to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sandra Bargman, on the Edge of Every Day. And if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to The Edge. If you like what you hear and you want to check out my past episodes with my inspiring guests, you can find them on talkradio.nyc, on your favorite podcast platforms, and on my YouTube channel, again, Sandra Bargman, on the Edge of Every Day. This show is about pushing boundaries and exploring rough edges. Through conversations and shared stories with friends and colleagues, it's my hope that we can begin to understand our edges. And what I mean by edges is those places where we are fearful, those places where we are resistant to change, those places where paradoxes and contradictions live in our beliefs and in our understandings, both internally and collectively in the world around us. Listen, we live in edgy, tumultuous times, and people are complex. The more we recognize our own edges and get real about them, the more we can help others to do the same. And that, I fully believe, can help to change the world. So thanks again for tuning in. And without further ado, it is time to introduce our guest tonight. Amanda Yates Garcia is an American witch, author, healer, and medium, among other New Age practices, and is known as the Oracle of Los Angeles. She is also a full-time witch and life coach. She has seen thousands of clients and led nearly 100 public workshops and ceremonies. Her work has been featured on the front page of the LA Times, in the New York Times, the London Times, the San Fran Chronicle, on CNN, Fox, Glamour UK, Goop, as well as interviews in literary journals like The Believer and Triangle House, to name a few. Amanda has a background in somatic work, BFA in dance from University College of London, and narrative theater, MFA in writing, critical theory, and film from Cal Arts. And she has lectured on witchcraft at UCLA, Cal State Pomona, UC Irvine, the Hammer Museum, the Getty Museum, MoCA, and many other cultural institutions. In 2019, she published her first book, Initiated, Memoir of a Witch, with Grand Central Hachette. Since then, it's been translated into 6 languages. She is the host of the popular podcast, Between the Worlds. Hello, Amanda. Welcome to the Edge of Every Day.
Hello, Sandra. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Oh, it's such
Thanks
a pleasure.
for having me.
It is truly a pleasure. And as I like to share with my guests, how I meet, or like I share with all of my audience, how I meet my guests. And I haven't met Amanda in person, only on Zoom and on social media. And I was completely drawn in and laser focused on her work once I read on her Facebook page that she was taking a break from social media, and the way that she talked about it really deeply resonated for me. She just talked about needing to take a break from it and how it was sucking all of her energy, and she didn't want to jump through hoops. And so from then on, I was really tuned into all of your work. And so, yeah. And you are not on that. You are on Oracle of Los Angeles now. You're not on the original page that I used to follow, Amanda Yates Garcia, right?
Well, so I have two Facebook pages. I have, I think, at Amanda Yates Garcia and at Oracle of LA. One of them is a personal page and one of them is a business page, but I never really go on them anymore. I haven't really been on Facebook for maybe like 6 to 8 months. I do have an Instagram account that's pretty poppin'. But I also just launched a Substack at Amanda Yates Garcia, and that's where I'm really going to be focusing my energy now. I really like Substack because it's a platform that's oriented towards writers, so I can go a little bit more deeply into the things that I'm really interested in rather than having to spend my time figuring out the algorithms for
why
Facebook
people like what they like. Yeah, it's maddening.
Exactly.
It's such a part of our world, how to navigate that. But so I'd like to talk about, right before we jumped into this conversation, I pulled a tarot card and a rune. And for my listeners, I'm sure you all know what tarot is, but you may not know runes. And it's a divination tool that has a long history dating back to Germanic and Nordic tribes. I'm by no stretch of the imagination an aficionado of, or somebody who knows tarot or runes deeply. I haven't studied them, but I certainly pull them often and go with my intuition. And I pulled Ace of Rods, which is also Ace of Wands for those of you listening in. And the rune that I pulled was Ingus. You can't really see it with these green screens.
It looks kind of like the drawing of a taffy with a wrapper on it. So
yes, that's good.
It's a diamond, and then it has a little V hat and a little V skirt.
Lovely. That's, yes, like a little taffy twist. Yeah, it's lovely. Well, and the word that came up with both of them, I'm going to let you wax on them, but the word that came up that I really clued in on was fertility. And how that is so apropos to one of the things I want to talk about with you with witchcraft, and something that's very alive in my life, and that's cronehood, and the beauty of the juxtaposition, the edge of everydayness of fertility in alignment with cronehood. And I just love that image of, we're always birthing. It's not just mothers, we're always birthing. So can you speak on that in terms of your knowledge and how that might reflect what's going on in your life or in the world right now?
Yes. Well, anytime that you pull an ace in the tarot, it's a big yes. It's the ace is just a big yes to whatever is happening or whatever your question was. And
my question was, what do I need to know about my conversation with Amanda Yates Garcia?
So there's some big yeses going to happen in this conversation.
Baby.
But also, so the aces also represent the distilled, or you might say the essential oil, the essential spirit of whichever suit you find them in. So the Ace of Wands is from the suit that represents fire. Wands are tools of transformation. So if you think of a wand and what it does and how it functions for witches, you use your wand to point to something and say, this, out of all of the other things that are in this room or in my life, this is where I'm directing my energy. This is where I'm directing my attention. And then wands are an agent of transformation. So you're pointing at whatever thing you're directing your energy towards and saying, this I will to transform. And so fire is associated with will and passion and creativity and that creative spark and inspiration and the warmth and heat of action. It's a very active force. And in fact, in witchcraft, it's called the upward force, because as you'll notice, if you were to look at a flame of a candle burning, or if you were to look at a fireplace, you'd see that the fire goes up and reaches upwards. And there's nothing that you have to do to make it do that, right? It just has this active, living, upward nature. And so when the Ace of Wands appears, you're getting a big yes to creativity, a big yes to inspiration. You're getting that energy of the suit itself. And fire is about transformation. Fire transforms. If we apply fire to water, it transforms it to air. You know, if we apply fire to ice, it transforms it to water. So the heat of fire is what makes it an agent of transformation. And so, and also, of course, the wands also relate very much to eroticism and sexuality and eros, desire. And of course, Ingas, which is the rune that you pulled, which has that shape of a diamond, corresponds in many ways to birth. It's a passageway. It's a conduit. It's a hole that something comes through. So it is very vaginal, you might say. And usually witches use that rune as a kind of punctuation mark at the end of a spell to say, yes, and now we're birthing this into the world. And so when you get something like as phallic as the Ace of Wands, which is, you know, like a flaming phallus that's showing up, and you get the Ingas rune, which is that birth canal, we definitely do have a very generative principle that's coming forward, something that's suggesting there's a spark of life here, there's power here, and it will come forth out into the world. So listeners, look out, because something is being born right now into your very ears.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think, you know, in terms of what we're birthing on the earth right now, and the need for witches and the need for witchcraft and our understanding, our deeper understanding of what that is with, you know, I certainly don't want to say, I'm not really into the rise of the feminine and the masculine. I think we are moving into this much more fluid understanding of all of the embrace of all of that. But in terms of the power that women are stepping into in the times that we are in and watching, and you must see it in the resurgence of witchcraft and the word that you used, willpower, and how that relates to our understanding of witchcraft. And when I think of, you know, magic and witchcraft, I think a lot of people misunderstand it as manipulative and full of willpower, when indeed that's not the nature of it. But we're going to take our break. And when we come back, we're going to address all of those things. What is the nature of witchcraft? What is the nature of magic? What is the nature of enchantment? And our need for it in the world today. When we come back with Amanda Yates Garcia on the Edge of Everyday. Stay tuned.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Chipping around, kick my brain to the ground. These are the days it never rained, but it on the edge of every day. And we are back with Amanda Yates Garcia, and we're going to pick it up with, so what is witchcraft? What is magic? What is enchantment?
Yeah, well, these are all
big fat questions.
Yeah. On a basic level, witchcraft is the art of changing consciousness at will. That's a quote from Dion Fortune, who's one of the grandmothers of witchcraft, as transmitted through Starhawk, another founding grandmother of the craft. And on the surface, that seems like something that might be fairly obvious. What does it mean to, we know what it means to change consciousness. But in fact, it's actually quite difficult to do that. And so the tools of witchcraft are used in order to help us do that. But I want to explain a little bit more about what I mean by that. To change consciousness at will, first you have to recognize where your consciousness is, and most of us have trouble even with that. So it means recognizing what you're thinking about, how you're observing the world, how you're relating to the world. And, in other spiritual traditions, for instance, Buddhism, you might meditate in order to become aware of how you are relating to the world, or how you're seeing the world, how you're thinking about it. Because otherwise, you just do it. You're on automatic pilot. You're not really recognizing that you have a choice, that you have agent. Yeah. So you're just experiencing, let's say if you're experiencing depression, or you're experiencing anxiety, or you're experiencing ambition or desire, whatever it is that you're experiencing, normally we experience it and then we go with it. It's like we get on the motorcycle and it drives us all around, and we just do what it says. We do what our first inclination tells us to do. The problem with that is that our first inclination is usually not what we innately would will to do, but we are being brainwashed and urged to make our decisions based on what our culture, our family of origin, the patriarchal culture, colonialist culture, white supremacist culture, all of these things, what that culture urges us to do, because it has been essentially brainwashing us since we were children, and before we even went to school, we're affected by our parents and how they have been rooted in this culture. And we're rooted in our family culture, which of course, as we know, as feminists, the personal is political. So if we just do what our first inclination is to do, and we don't question it, then the tide of capitalist colonialism pulls us out, and we are lost in that. So essentially witchcraft is a series of tools that you might use in order to find your agency, to find your power, to find your own personal and authentic will that is in alignment with the collective will. So the anima mundi, the spirit of the world, right? So our will, our true will, our true nature is often precluded or made invisible by the dominant culture in which we live. And so the techniques of witchcraft help us remember who we actually are. Then once we recognize, like, oh, for instance, I feel like I'm not good enough. Let's say we were having that thought. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with the way I look. There's something wrong with my job. There's something wrong with what I have. There's something wrong with my relationship. And we're just in that place. Then the first thing we want to do is recognize, do I like to be here? Is this where I want to be? And if not, how do I transform my state into something more beautiful, more pleasurable to me, something that inspires me? And the way that this works is according to field theory. So it's not causal, right? It's not like you wave your magic wand and it causes directly, like on a Newtonian level,
it's not hocus pocus.
Yeah. Instead, it changes the field of the energy around you. It changes the way that you interact with the world around you. It changes you from the inside. And therefore, because we're all connected to everything, it changes everything around you. So it sort of ripples out into the world around you. And as witches also, so that's one aspect of witchcraft. That's about the practice of witchcraft. But as far as the philosophy of witchcraft is concerned, I believe that witchcraft is the emergent spirituality of the anima mundi, or the spirit of the world. And so that spirit is trying to communicate with us. And we as humans have a gift for being able to, work creatively, to build tools, to deliberately and intentionally change our environment. And that can be used for good or for ill. And I feel like the spirit of the world has taught us witchcraft in order to help us remember what they will for us. And so that we can listen to that will and then perform it, do it, execute it. So those are really the two levels of witchcraft. But I also want to say, witchcraft is an anarchic tradition. It's a folk tradition. It is not rooted in a specific book, or it doesn't have, the head person like a pope. It doesn't have anybody who can really tell you, you are doing it right or you're doing it wrong. Yes. And therefore, I don't have the final word on what witchcraft is. I can only really speak to what it is for me and how I engage with it and what works for me, but I can't really say what it is for other people, and nor can anybody else. If you're out there listening to other witches and what they say, and they're telling you that you're doing it wrong, nobody can tell you that. Nobody can tell you that you are a witch except you. You are the one who makes you a witch.
Absolutely. Well, and I teach this, I model this, hopefully. I speak about it here, the sense of non-hierarchical relationship to spirit. I mean, that's why I would call myself a mystic. And, I love to sort of fool around with, this is potentially the witch in me, fool around. And when I was first in seminary, talking about, I'm going to seminary, and people would just kind of look at me and be, this does not compute. And the notion that, that's because I'm not trying to be anyone of authority within my spiritual quest. I'm simply fascinated by the spiritual quest in general. And I want to explore all of the ways people expand themselves, witchcraft being one of them, and helping people to understand what it is and to demystify it. I think a lot of my listeners probably understand that it's a connection to nature. It's understand that it's part of my belief system. In fact, I did an entire show on the archetype of the witch on Halloween. But yeah, the sense of agency, always agency. And so, and re-enchantment being as I understand it, the understanding that all of life is sacred, but the notion of doing all of the internal work and then bringing it out into the world in action, in physical action, is that how you would define enchantment?
So when we speak to the word enchantment on a basic level, enchantment is the property of making something sacred. So to enchant something is to chant over it, for instance, is to imbue it with sacred properties. But that chanting over is actually a way of simply recognizing that it already is sacred, that we live in a sacred world. But it's through our rituals of enchantment that we make the world sacred. In other words, that we come to understand it as sacred. Yeah. Enchantment and magic are all about relationship and honoring the web of relationships and the connectedness between all life. So that's one layer of enchantment. But the way that a lot of people are using the phrase today comes from the cultural critic and feminist Sylvia Federici in her book Caliban and the Witch, which is speaking to the beginning of capitalism and the persecution of witches during the Inquisitions. And the idea of enchantment in that regard is based on the idea that the world has become disenchanted through capitalism. In other words, capitalism renders everything unsacred. It breaks the connections. It breaks the relationships that we have with our land of origin, with our family of origin, with other people in our culture, between generations in our culture, between us and the quote unquote natural world. It severs those connections and then sells them back to us, because we are then isolated, alone, afraid, because all of our connections have been severed, and humans are animals of relationship. And so also through that severing of connection, it makes it so that the world around us is not sacred, right? A tree is not alive. It does not have a consciousness. It is only valuable as a means to access capital. We can liquidate, quote unquote, the value of that tree. So we cut it down, we turn it into, I don't know, like a cheap IKEA bookshelf or whatever. And then we have transformed that tree to something that is completely valueless, because it's just standing there doing nothing, into capital. And that is the process of disenchantment. Yes. But as I was saying before, if we don't do the work of enchantment, then we are sucked out with the tides of disenchantment. So because everything in our culture is pushing us and propelling us towards this feeling of disenchantment, this feeling of alienation, this disconnectedness from each other, from the world around us, then we have to have practices that reconnect us. Because if we don't have those practices, how are we going to do that work?
Amen.
We won't be able to. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to practice witchcraft and that's the only way to do it, but it is one effective way.
Indeed. And we're going to talk about those practices, in particular ritual, when we come back on the Edge of Every Day with Amanda Yates Garcia. Stay tuned.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauber, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Hey, everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Chipping around, kick my brain to the ground. These are the days it never rained, but it pours on the edge of every day. And we are back with Amanda Yates Garcia. Before we dive into those practices, I want to talk about how the witch is and as an edge walker. The witch, as we spoke about, I said in my my Halloween episode, the witch is the veil between the other world and the underworld, between the light and the dark. She's the fence rider, the veil. Speak to me about the comfort of a witch within these liminal spaces, this dance between polarities, if you will. Speak to me about your understanding of that and teachings of that.
Yeah, so traditionally, witches lived on the outskirts of town.
Yeah.
And as medicine people, they were in charge of mediating between the realms of civilization or the realms of the people and the unseen realms, which would be the realms of the ancestors or the realms of the imagination, the realms of the woods and the dark. And the hedge also is built into the history of witchcraft, in the sense that when witches were persecuted in the medieval period, or the transition into modernity, the reason for that was because of the enclosures of the land that had been held in common by the public, and the landowning classes enclosed that land and essentially forbid the general public from grazing their animals there or being able to plant crops there, which meant that they starved unless they worked for these landlords, essentially. And many of the witches who were accused of witchcraft were older women who
The crones.
lost access to their livelihoods, right? They couldn't graze sheep on collective land any longer, and they couldn't be hired by the lords to do like farm labor because they were elderly. So they would be, often become beggars. And then if people denied them their requests for milk or meat or bread, they would then accuse these women of casting spells on them for instance, making their babies sick, or making the cows die, or making the milk curdle. But essentially, that was a misplaced guilt over this shift within the culture. And also the older women, the elderly women, were the ones who remembered the old ways, and that there was a collectivity beforehand. And of course, you know, if any executive goes into a new company, they want to like get rid of the old guard, get rid of the people who knew the culture before, right?
Yeah.
You kind of fire everyone and then bring in new
Indeed.
people. So there's that political aspect to the edge walking, in the sense that they literally were outside of the hedge, right? They were outside of
Pushing
that
the boundaries.
space. They were on the other side of the boundary. Exactly.
Yeah.
But also they were the ones who could travel in trance to the realms of the other world, which is where we encounter the ancestral beings, the fairy beings, the elemental beings, which is essentially about a shift in consciousness. So, you know, witches are shapeshifters. They can travel as crows, they can travel as wolves. But what that really means is that they are able to shift their consciousness into the bodies of other beings, and they can understand the world and see the world from the perspective of plants, of animals, of wind. And that skill is extremely important if we hope to be able to survive the imminent ecological collapse that we're all experiencing, to be able to shift your mind so that you're not isolated and cut off, but that you are someone who can walk between worlds and recognizes the plurality of being. A lot of people think, if they don't know witchcraft very well, or if they haven't been exposed to this kind of thinking, that it is ridiculous. You know, this idea that a witch might be able to travel between the worlds, or to travel in the mind of a raven or something like that, would seem like absolute fantasy and fairy tale. It's a completely different way of viewing the world, though. And our world today is straitjacketed into the specific ontology, which means a way of seeing reality that is absolutely limited to this scientific, rational, measurable, essentially white supremacist perspective, which says there is only one reality, and it just happens to be the reality that white
that I'm pushing,
landowning, powerful men
exactly
experience.
Just happens to be mine.
Yeah. So
just happens to be status quo's way.
Yeah, it just happens to be the one that, you know, the people who have all the guns and money think
right.
that. So the tools of witchcraft are ones that help us travel between the worlds and move into the realms of the dark, of the unseen, of the imaginal worlds, which are not measurable, and are not documentable, and cannot be recorded and replicated in, you know, blind studies.
Yes, indeed. Well, I would think some people in today's world are kind of seeing that they're getting on board with, you know, quantum physics and such, that there's so much that we don't know about the mind, that yes, you can shapeshift, and yes, it is possible, you know. But, you know, we're not going to go down the scientific rat hole right now, because I want to get to ritual with you. As per usual, there's always a million questions and a million things that I want to talk about, but I must move us towards ritual. And I as a tool for the, you know, like edge walking, like the dance of polarities, the liminal spaces, that's what ritual is. And that as a tool for witchcraft, for anyone who engages, myself, anyone who engages in ritual, the power of the transformative power of ritual. Speak to us from the witch's standpoint about ritual.
Yeah, so what ritual does is it signals that we're moving into a different reality.
Yes.
Because ritual is different than the things that we're just ordinarily doing. So, normally we're, walking to the cafe to get a coffee, or we're sitting down and we're answering our emails, or, we kind of blindly go through the day sort of on rote. But ritual signals to our unconscious minds, to our muse mind, our child mind, or, our dreaming mind, that we're shifting into a different state of consciousness. So, for instance, when you walk with the, when you walk Diosil, which is with the direction of the sun, in a circle 3 times, ringing a bell and saying the names of, let's say, all your ancestors that you remember, or all the plants or trees in your neighborhood, or you call in the elements of the fires and the air and earth and water, then that is different. That is not something you do all the time. So not only are you sort of acting out and signaling to your consciousness that something different is happening now, but you're also doing it physically and actually creating that space. So you walk in that circle, and then that circle is created through doing that, and that circle becomes a porthole where you can connect and communicate with unseen realms, and you can enter the realm of the imagination. And the imagination is the portal to the spirit world. So we have to do these imaginal acts in order to enter into the spirit world. So you can take any object and transform it into a magical tool, essentially, by using your imagination in the way that you relate to and interact with this object, so that the object, because you're relating to it, becomes subject, becomes living. And it's then through that living awakening that the object moves through, transmutes into, that we awaken within us this sense of interconnectedness and ability to communicate with the world and transform the world around us. So rituals are going to involve usually things like casting a circle, calling in spirit allies, offering signs of gratitude or giving offerings, stating our intentions, doing a ritual act, whatever it is that you decide that might be, whether it's candle magic, carving words into a candle, or sprinkling a poppet with salt, or whatever it is that you want to do, and then thanking the spirits again, and then closing the circle is usually like what a basic spell or ritual would entail. I mean, there's many ways to do this, and this is just one of them.
I love it. Well, we have to go to a break soon, but I do want to touch upon certainly your book, Initiated, Memoir of a Witch, which we will include places where you can get this book in the show notes. I finished it, and I devoured it, absolutely devoured it, and loved it. But I want to touch on the edge between performance art and ritual. And we're going to be going into our last quarter, so we can't spend too much time on it, but I do want to touch on that because it's so a favorite edge of mine. And I also, when we come back, want to share where people can find you and what your leading edge is these days. When we come back with Amanda Yates Garcia on the edge of every day. Stay tuned.
Hey, everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Chipping around, kick my brain to the ground. These are the days it never rained, but it pours on the edge of every day. And we are back with Amanda Yates Garcia. So, the reclamation of ritual and the need for it in today's world, as we are being called forward, all of it, and Mother Earth is calling to us, and the spirit of the world is calling to us. One of the ways in which I have done that is to blur the edges of ritual and theater. And in my show, The Edge of Every Day, which was a solo show before it was this podcast, and weaving in spiritual concepts with music, which is the song that you're hearing when we enter into our conversation. And but the whole notion of combining, ritual isn't theater, but theater is ritual mentality. And I know that you've combined it with, and you had an interesting reaction to your Oracle of Los Angeles. Did you set out to make that more as a performance art, or were you genuinely trying to educate on ritual, etc.? What was the intention of that, and then what did that turn into? Oh, can't hear you.
Sorry about that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, initially, yes, because I came from a background in the arts, I started doing public rituals as an artist. But my work and my understanding of what I'm doing has changed it has changed radically in my, decade or more, 15 years or so of doing this work publicly. So now I come to understand it this way. Ritual, witchcraft, spell work, there is no witness, there is no spectator. Everyone is a part of this, right? It's not something that we engage, that we look at, that we spectate on as an audience from a position of aesthetic distance. So when we go to a performance, for instance, at a theater, the lights go low and they go dim, which is in itself a ritual, and maybe the curtain opens, and then we're spectating on something that is happening on a stage, and there is, the fourth wall, right, between us and the view, between the performer and the viewer. It can be broken too. Yeah, sure, you can break it, but the thing is, with ritual, you're always breaking it, I think, if you're doing it successfully. Now, other people might argue with me about that, because I know a lot of witches who do ritual as performance, and it is still a sort of spectatorial practice, I guess communion. You might say. Yeah, but for me, no, I think that ritual is is an act of transformation, and you will be transformed if you participate in it, and you must participate in it. If you are there, you will participate because because everything in the proximity does. So even if you resist it, there is a essence of participation. So don't go to a witch's ritual if you don't want to participate, basically.
Yes.
If you don't want to be transformed, don't go.
Right. Don't go. Well, a good rule of thumb: don't go to a ritual. Period. If you don't want to be transformed, if you don't want those rituals. And that brings, of course, up intention, and we just unfortunately don't have time. I want you back on the show where we can dive way deeper into all of this stuff. But anyway, so what are some of the older generation thinking about the newer generations coming up, how witchcraft is evolving? We don't have, again, a ton of time left, but I do want to touch on that. I mean, how are the older generations even thinking about ritual and the edge of performance and how witchcraft is evolving?
Well, I think one of the ways that witchcraft is evolving is through the youth of today have a really different understanding of, for instance, gender, inclusivity, intersectionality, and cultural appropriation. Their awareness of those kinds of things is much stronger, and they're doing a lot of work to democratize and make and to reclaim space for difference in a way that I feel like, for instance, my mother's generation, which was part of the rebirth of witchcraft in the 70s, my mother is a witch, really comes out of second wave feminism and women's consciousness raising circles and stuff of the 70s, which were doing really important work. But I think that the understanding of gender was
different,
perhaps necessarily so, given the context, was quite reductive by today's standards, in the sense of, like, we have an essential idea of what a woman is and what a man is, and those circles, I think, were important for people at the time, but they also didn't allow for different understandings of gender, and also had a lot of cultural appropriation problems, I think, because witchcraft is to a large degree a reconstructionist practice, and so we're often taking from many different traditions. But my practice now is to draw from the traditions of my people, of my genetic lineage. So I think that those are some major ways. I also think, there wasn't the internet when I was really starting, or when my mother was doing this work. There was no witch talk, there was no blog posts telling about
Between the Worlds podcast.
There was no Between the Worlds podcast. So I think it was much harder for people to access in a way. And
absolutely. But there's also the power that you stepping out in the way that you're stepping out. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, which came first, the chicken or the egg, in terms of, the fact that you call yourself a professional witch is fantastic. I mean, that's like a political statement.
For real, it is.
And like jamming. And, and I there were a handful, listen, I was not a part of that second wave. I was a little too young, but, just on the tails of it. But yeah, no, I didn't. But yeah, no, you absolutely, the web has it's really given platform to all of this new understanding.
Absolutely, it has. And it's allowed for people to see that there are many ways of doing this, and has really increased the visibility of witches. And I think because it's allowed witches to speak publicly for themselves, when historically, most of the time when you were hearing about witches, it was from the mouths of their enemies, or from the mouths of people who wanted to dismiss them. So maybe the religious right, or anthropologists or who are essentially saying that this is a dead practice or trying to disprove it in multiple ways, or people who were making fun of it or saying that it wasn't real, but never actually hearing the witch's voice, her or themselves. So now you get to hear the witch speak at least in my case, in my own voice. And I would imagine that it's not what people expect, because people have this idea of what a witch is,
Indeed.
But they don't actually know anything about what witchcraft is. So it's been my experience that, for instance, many a time when I'm being interviewed by, bigger publications like, the New York Times or whatever, that people have this idea of what witchcraft is, and they ask you questions about it in order to get you to conform to their own idea of what it already is, but they don't actually know anything about it. So they're asking you questions that are really irrelevant to so because they think they already know, right? They're like, they always say things like, oh, you're a witch. Where's the wart on your nose? How come your skin's not green? Because their understanding of what a witch is drawn from, the movies. Yeah. But witchcraft is so much more than that. And to me, that's really a beautiful opportunity to be able to speak about it in our own voice and have people understand and see it from our perspective.
Well, I am thrilled that you have been speaking in your own voice on the edge of every day about it. And I thank you so, so much.
I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
So let's review for our listeners. We have the oracleoflosangeles.com.
Yeah, oracleoflosangeles.com. That's my website. You can also find me at Amanda Yates Garcia on Substack, or at Oracle of LA on Instagram.
Yes.
And you can book a session with me if you'd like to go in deeper. You can also listen to my podcast, Between the Worlds podcast, or buy my book, Initiated Memoir of a Witch. You can get that pretty much anywhere books are sold.
Yeah, amen. And again, I just have to tell everyone, I loved the review where it said it was a cross between, I forget the other book, but with Clarissa Pinkola Estes's Women Who Run with the Wolves, which I got at the age of 30, and it became my Bible. It was ridiculous. It's more notes than words.
It's so really beautiful.
So good. But they said your book was a combination of that with something else that I did not know, but I thought, how yummy and delicious. And indeed, your book was yummy and delicious. And your vulnerability, the power of your writing, and the weaving of mythology into the book, along with your experiences in the underworld and your initiations. It was really quite a ride, and thank you for that.
No, thank you. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it, and it's a real honor to know that it was in your hands.
Well, any last quick words of wisdom for our listeners, Amanda, before we say goodbye?
If this has sparked anything in you, there is a pathway for you. And if you're curious about witchcraft, you get to go at your own pace, and you get to decide what is right for you. And, Spirit has been calling you, and you can tune into your own heart, and it will direct you to the right answer.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Big birth.
Big birth. There we go.
Fertility. That's what this podcast is all about tonight. Well, yes. Amanda, thank you for being on the show and for sharing your wisdom and your insight and your magic.
It's my great honor. Thank you so much for having me, Sandra.
And for those of you who are listening, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Remember, you are always on the edge of the miraculous. See you next time.
This is our last dance. This is ourselves under pressure.